So Sandhya, good evening, everybody. Today is 3rd of September 2023. It's a special day in many ways, just to me personally, as well as for the leads as well. Today we're going to talk about a PRM election system, which is a new proposal, which is not existing anywhere, but we want to discuss this in detail, because it will be educational to all of us as to highlight the weaknesses that is there in our system, and also what we can do to why it's important and why we should focus on this, because if we want to recover from the current dismal situation. So importantly, today is our 100th meeting that we are conducting on a Sunday, sharing values and talking to each other. And we've learned a lot from each other. I'm very grateful to everybody who's contributed, and also people who shared values. And then we made good progress, so we can do more. And the second one is actually, it's 43 years ago that I reported to work as an intern doctor on the 3rd of September, a salary of rupees 910 for a month. And that included every other day on-call work as well. So which means we had to work 8 hours and then followed by whole on-call for the night. Then the following day, 8 hours, and then you get one night free every other day. That's the kind of workload we had those days when we were in training. So I think, so let's move forward. So let's move forward and see what is there. Usually I update what we are doing, what we plan for everyone to know. So we got two major events, things in our place. First is the edutainment event in December, and the other one is the virtual education platform as a patch up for the time being for the brain drain. Edutainment event is work is in progress. I've contacted 2 event managers, and there's maybe a third person that I can contact as well and explain a little bit about what we needed to do. We are still awaiting assessment and correspondence from them as to what kind of costs it will be. And the BMICH is apparently full. We have not directly inquired yet, up to about middle of next year. So Nelumpokun is available, slightly less number of seats, 1,275. But still, if that's the case, we will probably have to move the location slightly. Children talent contact, we have commenced, and that is being communicated between teachers and so on to see how to get there. Artists also, we have started contacting them. We will give more details as we go about the edutainment event. So that's what it is. We don't have a date yet, but we'll hopefully be able to fix the date very quickly. Then the virtual education platform, there are several people who are interested in this. And it seems like I spoke to an accountant as well, because it's perhaps best managed as a separate non-profit making companies as a subsidiary to Leads, so that they can manage their finances on their own and then make it a non-profit. That means you can claim your time and everything else, so that everyone's time is valued and paid for, and then work accordingly. So we want to be non-competitive, because there are other commercial platforms that are there in Sri Lanka at the moment as education platforms for children. So we will probably try to be non-competitive. And I've asked about this from our accountants, and because we are registered charity, we should be able to open 2 accounts. One purely for virtual education platform incomes and expenditures, so that can be managed separately by a board of directors. So that the virtual platform is slightly different to a tuition class, because the tuition class is just simply a memory recall business. But this is not that. We will patch up this, but we will add things like humanity, Then even things like programming, using artificial intelligence and so on. So it will be a more highly powerful education platform. That's what I want that to be. So if there's a interested board of directors, maybe few people, maybe 5 people even, would be able to take it forward if they are active for their own benefit. So even younger people can join. And next Sunday, that's 10th September meeting, because of its importance, I have dedicated to this. So next Sunday, Leeds meeting will be about our virtual education platform. So we hope the December event will be able to generate some funds to advertise, etc., and also find some seed money for the virtual education platform. So if you are interested in anything, you want to communicate, tell us whatever advice, participate, just write to admin@srilankaleads.com and we'll let you know where we are heading. Now, Sri Lanka, we've had elections and elections and elections after elections. But since independence, now it's 75 years, independence, and we have doing our self-rule, it doesn't seem like we have really gone up at all. We have instead gone down and down and down in a really dismal situation. So we've discussed the election system, why our elected leaders can't actually do the job they have to do to bring the nation up, get the nation to develop. And our scholars wanted certain features in our election system. So there are lots of people who discussed about our election system in the past, and then election systems that's available in the country, our country, as well as elsewhere, and the problems there is. So I will list the requirements that I have summarized from these. First is that ensure the elections would produce a government serving national interests. This is something everybody wanted. Then they recognize and respect the equality of votes. So every vote has to have some kind of power rather than to get discarded halfway. And then voting proportions are accurately reflected and accountable in the parliament. So whatever they say, if you got 10% of the vote, you should get 10% of the members of parliament seats so that it's accurately reflected. Then the system has to be a simple one, uncomplicated, so that everyone understands what system is operational to select the MPs. At the moment, it's quite complex, and then it's very difficult to understand. Now, they ensure that the election design is robust. So it's not favorable to divisive politics. Unfortunately, this is exactly the opposite that is there at the moment, which is a problem. Then minimize exploitation of different communities using race, religion, and other castes, whatever, so that communities are sometimes threatened, given false hopes, etc., so that the division helps the crooks to come abroad. Then seal the openings of corruption and voter intimidation through violence, decoy, candidates, and abstaining from voting, so that this has all been used in the past to intimidate things. Say, for example, because of Manape thing, okay? Say, let's see if there's a Muslim candidate for a district, then usually in, say, Muslim areas, the certain voting stations may have a large number of Muslim voters. So what these fellows will do is they will go and either threat or create violence in those centers. So then what happens is the Manapi votes will then drop for that particular person who is generally popular elsewhere as well. So that people use violence in very centered areas, very thoughtful, and then create differences so that he does not get elected. So that is number one. Number two is decoy candidates being used. Decoy candidates being used again to reduce Manape in areas. and also sometimes to hyperinflate a particular party through bonus seats. So all this is possible. But abstaining, you think abstaining is a good thing? Abstaining is fantastic because, say, you have 100 registered voters for a particular district. And then there are quite a number of community-based kind of divisive politics. And there are several members applying to become candidates. So what someone will do, either voluntary or by threaten, so that certain voters are prevented from voting. So when that happens, because you are using the registered number of votes, and say only 2 candidates got, say, 3 votes and the others did not come, then these 3 votes will be enough for them to go to the parliament, because the allocation of number of MPs will be for the registered number of votes, so that you can use it very cleverly, the abstaining, to promote a particular individual into parliament. So they make the election design legitimate and accepted by many. That's the last thing we have to do if we have an acceptable election proposal. So we are going to talk about PRRM system, which is a new word, but this means proportional representation with regional meritocracy. That's what we are talking about, but I'll explain it in detail as we go. Now, I think for everybody's knowledge, when you say proportional representation, say if you have a election, if voters, the Green Party get 10%, then 10% of the MP should be given to the Green Party. Say if the Blue Party get 30%, then the MPs in the parliament should also be 30% representing that particular party. So that's important. And even there should be some place for this independent candidate who come through a parliament. So that has to be made possible as well. So what is the problem with our election method? Mastered and revised so many times. And why is the problem? Now, this is a slide that I've used when we became bankrupt country. We looked at exactly what's wrong with us. Here we are, our economy. This was filled with loans and loans and loans for years and years. And the productivity was not really purported. Say education and everything was second ground by the government. They did not support anything to increase education or even energy production and so on. But number of holes that is there for the economy was getting higher and higher and bigger. So this is partly is corruption by various people, including the politicians. But then there was a set of oligarchs. Now, oligarchs is actually a Russian term, where they came to power more or less very powerful since Gorbachev time, after that time in Russia. And they were businessmen. They were businessmen who exploited the people to earn money. At the same time, they were very good friends with the government. And then sometimes they even dictated what the government should be. So this is the kind of scenario that we had in Sri Lanka. Now, why do we want a new election system? Because how can our new proposal sort this problem? Now, what has really happened is the productivity is not that good as present. But this, for example, this mechanism, this structure of political framework stealing from the poor is still intact, alive and kicking. Thus, all that we do will have no significant effect on our national well-being. So I know some of our members are proposing we should get experts, we should promote how to increase the productivity in the sense through education, through looking into the problems, through harmony, everything else. But whatever the productivity we will do, this is where the problem is, because whatever you put it in the bucket will go elsewhere and not for these people who were supporting the government. That's the problem we have. That is why I thought we'll discuss this today in our 100th meeting. So at the moment, the world's most stable governments use proportional representation. So it's a good thing that we can see whether we can work with that. And I am no expert in any of this at all. I'm just being a medic for a long time. But there are two people who actually taught me through their presentations, through our discussions, emails, criticism, everything else. Everything is very constructive, and that's Bernard Fernando, who been in the Bank of Ceylon some time ago, and Janaka is a PhD person who has already spoken about this subject. But I'm so grateful to both of them for putting various ideas to me. And then I thought, as an independent kind of a very immature person, to think about how to put all these things together. So basically, my learning came from these two. So we got 225 MC seats in our parliament. So 1978 constitution included a PR system, but we never had a election system with the proper PR system. It was tinkered several times. The first election was in 1989. Now there has been more tinkering into it. So basically, our election system is not really a PR anymore. It's but a party inflated representation. It's a PIR. That's a party inflated representation. That's what it is. So I will show how this is happening and so on. So here is the, I think, 2020 election result. SLPP 59% of the vote. And if it's properly proportionally given, they should have got only 133 seats. But instead, they got 145. Now, JGB, who should have got 9 seats, got only 3. And ITAC, who should have got only 6, got 10. So basically, this election system hyperinflates the winning party and actually demotes the opposition. So if you demote the opposition in a democratic parliament, the democracy can't survive. So we cannot demote the opposition in the parliament, which is very important for this. So, but the argument for hyperinflating the winning party is a stable government. That's not quite true. What we want is a good government. Stability is a different thing. So this is also the basis for two-third mockery as well, which I'll talk in a minute. So our election mockery now, how many weaknesses are there? So discard candidates less than 12.5%. I think this is 5% or so, Janak told me, as the votes threshold. So when you select counting the election, the candidates who get less than 12.5% or 5%, whatever the threshold, all that get discarded. So imagine with so many districts, everyone getting less than 5% votes getting discarded. So your vote has no value if it get discarded. So that's number one. Number two is bonus seats. Bonus seats are designed to hyperinflate the winning party with several more seats. But then you also get rid of the true opposition numbers in the process, which actually it hits on the democracy. Then there's national seats, 29 national seats. That's 13% of the 225. And this is a backdoor entrance even for the lost candidates in the same election. It's never used in the way it should be. And it is biased and not for professionals anymore, but for the crooks. I know one of the elections, one of my colleagues was on the top of the national list before the election, and he thought he will get into the parliament. But sadly, his name was nowhere there when the national seats were given. So you can see what kind of a decoy that it is. So criminal records is not an issue. We even have convicted murderers having the parliamentary privileges and attending parliament. So can prosper criminality even within, and allows monkey jumping. Now the monkey jumping, everybody uses this word for value. So which means, if you want 3 votes, you can buy or you will give some perks and they jump over. So what's the point? Because the parliament representatives has to represent the voters' interest. So if a voter has interested and voted you in to be in a particular party, you jump to the other side, which is not that interest. So they don't even serve the interests of their own voters. So that's what is happening. Then abstainment can be used to change the winning party or inflate another candidate very easily. And sometimes abstainment means supporting that particular argument. So this way we can inflate the two-thirds in the parliament. So the party leader also select the candidates. Now this makes it family business. So that because the party leader selects the candidates for all the region, so have no interest in the local representation. So the people who get elected, they have no interest in the local popularity or even local representation. So the popular candidates cannot get in. So people who are energetic, who are popular in the region don't get in because that kind of people doesn't really get on with the party leader. So these are the issues that we have in our current system. So even the most peaceful election is unfair. That is because why do some parties get higher numbers? I've explained that. Why do some parties get lower number of seats? I've explained that as well. So even the most peaceful election is very unfair because basically the vote has no equality in its representation in the parliament. The reason is national seats, bonus seats, the result of tinkering of 1978's constitution, offering seats based on registered number of votes rather than the actual voted. Now, if you have registered 100 and if you're only 10 voting into it, then why do you bother about the 90 who did not come to vote? We don't have to worry at all because it's like almost like non-registering for the vote. So we should really use the actual number who has voted, who has an interest in getting the correct government, and not the absentees who are just registered, and that is being used to manipulate the votes. So that is how the abstainment is working in this tinkering process. So let's come to the basic proposal. Sri Lanka has 22 electoral districts. I put the names on both sides so people will know what these districts are. So if you have a general election, this is the first step in our PRRM system. You have a general election that is now completed fully. So we will know nationally the total number of votes cast nationally, not the registered number, cast number, that is A, okay? And we also know there's 196 seats plus 29 for the national awards, okay? It's a good division number, so look at like this. So you get 196, so divide A, that is the total number of votes cast in the country, by 196. Then you get a value for each MP in votes, okay? So you now have a vote value for each MP. Okay, so let's go to the districts now. So we'll leave it as it is. Let's go to the districts. So in a particular district, shall we say Colombo maybe, okay? Total number of votes cast in a district is X. X number is casted in a particular district. So divide the X by B. That is the value of each MP that we decided on a national voting count. So if you divide the X by B, then you get a number of MPs for each district. Okay, so that's the number of MPs each district will get, and that will depend on the number of votes that's being casted in that particular district. So things like intimidation, things like abstainment, things like violence, all that is not going to help with the counting when that is there. Okay, so then it will end up with a round-up decimals. Now, round-up decimals means when you divide it like this, it will be like 20.5 candidates, so something like that, MPs, or 22.7 or 22.3, something like that. So you can round up these decimals like 0.4 or above and add one extra MP to that district. That is why this buffer is there. So you have 1996 plus there's a 29. So if you put half, you might go up to about another 15, 16 or something like that. It's possible because it's 22 districts we have to cover. So even if the 22 districts we cover with a roundup vote, because they all had more than 0.5 in their calculation, still you got few vacancies left, so that we don't have a problem with the number of MPs who are going to this thing. But however, this rounding up, some people say, just totally get rid of it. Don't even bother to round up. Just give the exact number that you get. Or like Janak and Bernard, they're saying we can use accepted methods to do the roundup, which they are the experts of, and we have to listen to them and ask how that works. So now we got MPs selected by meritocracy for the district. So how you do it district? So the MPs for each district already elected, because you use meritocracy, the number of votes each candidate has got for a particular district, and if you rank it on the descending order, and if you got the first 20, the number of vacancies that is particularly offered for that particular district, then you will have, say, 10 MPs selected for Colombo or 15 for Gaul or something like that will happen. So depending on the number of votes they've got, so use the meritocracy regionally to select the candidates who become members of parliament. Now, then we don't use the party yet. We use the candidates and their number of votes they've got. So the popular candidates will have higher number of votes, and then they will come at the higher up in the meritocracy order, so that they will get a member of representation in the parliament. So if you round up, say about 15, 16 will go for additional numbers, but there'll be still vacancies remaining. If you don't use the roundup, we'll have 29 seats remaining that has no allocation yet. Then what you do is obtain votes obtained by all candidates. So then you get a national vote count, and you can rank all the candidates who's been who according to the votes, number of votes they receive in a descending order. That's nationally. And then rank this in the descending order and remove the names already selected. So by which time we would know who are the people who got selected through regional meritocracy to the parliament. So their names need not be there in this ranking order. So you remove the names, and then we have remaining candidates in a descending ranked order according to the votes they received, but have no seats yet. So if you have all 29 still vacant, you can offer all that 29 to these people who are ranked. So it could be any party. Now, this is most important because independent candidates, for example, who will have very popular in locally and higher number of votes, will get selected as members of parliament here. Now, if, for example, none of the parties were not really popular in the country, and lots of people went independent and applied, and then what will happen is, because we are selecting according to the number of votes that they've received, one day it is possible that the independent candidates will have a higher number of MPs in the parliament than any of the parties, and they will be able to form a government. So basically now the equality of vote is very strong because we are voting for popular good people. So select the next 14 means it could be even 29 if we don't round up by meritocracy. So that means you got a national vote now that is selecting the remaining vacancies for the member of parliaments. So now we will see that all 225 will be selected on a meritocracy method that is acceptable to everyone. So regional promotion of candidates. Now this is something that we need to focus on if this system to work. At the moment, the party leaders select the candidates and the same design continues. Now, this is where the corruption comes in, because We need a bottom-up system. Now, if the leader selects them, it could be family dynasty, their friends and everybody else get nominated, the others' names get dropped off when you are putting nomination for a particular party. Instead, if you get a bottom-up approach for the candidates, even for the party, the local branch should select the candidates for a particular party and then nominate the candidates for that particular party. This is why we need the total votes cast in the country divided by 196. Then you get the value for an MP. So then we will know that how much worth in relation to the votes a particular MP is. So use that to divide the votes cast in each district to find the number of MP seats that will be made available for that district. So you don't get people with, say, 3 votes going to the parliament as a member of parliament and have equal privileges and everything else in the parliament when this system is applied. And also, family dynasties are no longer possible because it's the people in the regions who will nominate, even for a party, who will be voting, who will be asking who are the candidates. Now, they will not put too many candidates also, because if you had, say, too many candidates, who will lose? The party will lose. So that then they will not get any seats at all. So they'll have to be very careful as to who is going in as a candidate for a particular district. So this will make people think more regionally who should be going and who is more popular and so on. So the divisive politics will get weaker because it's very difficult to do a divisive politic when you are looking for a popularity in a full district, not a particular small town. So the basic principles followed. So this, what scholars wanted, we did. Every vote had a value and used. Meritocracy applied at regional levels. Meritocracy applied at national level. Use the number of MPs won by each party to find the winner. So at the end of the election, we have 2 stages. One is meritocracy at the regional level to get the number of MPs. And then we have a meritocracy at the national levels to get the remaining number of MPs. Now, they will belong to a particular party, some may not. Now, if you add up those MPs and their political parties, then only we will know which party is the winner. So that means if independent candidates form the largest group, they are the winner. Now, winning group nominates the prime minister within them. So that's the way it should be. Now, this is total number of votes. This is an example that was done by Janaka about 2020 election. 22 districts are like that. So when you divide the total number of votes, the votes for a particular MP value is 62,976. Now, if you look at the current parliament, how many have 62,976 or above votes when they are in the parliament? Now, you can see the differences. And then the number of MPs for each district with a roundup is given it here. So even then you get only 197. So you get 28 remaining vacancies that needs to be filled through a national list. So this is a good calculation for us to just see how valid our representation in the parliament now is. Not only the numbers, but the votes as well is an important thing. So there are more advantages because there are no national seats. So the back door is completely closed. No bonus seats. So there's no demotion of the opposition. That is also closed. Then simple meritocracy replacing the manape. So that is proper manape. Now, if you are doing simple meritocracy, you don't need any calculation. That's just the proper manape in practice. Now, parties survive if people say so. Now, if the party is not very good, people don't have to vote for it because then it will be a true democracy and voter manipulation will affect the culprit. So if somebody is trying to do voter manipulation by abstaining, decoying, or intimidation, that will only affect them who are trying to do it and not the others, which is a very good thing. And divisive politics will be their downfall. So this is bringing in things that we wanted to do without even speaking about it when we change the election system. So these are important things we have to do. So if that's the case, if you got 56% of the vote, 56% of the MPs will be in the parliament representing that particular party or even independents, if that's the case. So that's a very good way of representing. So whatever colors wanted, ensure the elections would produce a government serving national interest. Now this system will do that. Recognize and respect the equality of this system will do that. Voting proportions are accurately reflected and accountable in the parliament. This will do that. Use a simple, uncomplicated method to make people understand. This will do that. Ensure the election design is robust and not favorable to divisive politics. Yes, this will do that. Minimize exploitation of communities by race, religion, and other castes. Yes, this will do that. Seal the openings of corruption and voter intimidation through violence, decoy candidates, and abstaining. That will do that. So only thing we need to do is to make the election design legitimate and accepted by many. That's the only one is remaining. Now listen to this and about the government duties.
आवश्यक है न ये संभव रहा, इसलिए मैं कहता हूं गवर्नमेंट हैड नो बिजनेस टू बी इन बिजनेस. सरकार का फोकस लोगों के वेल.
Now see the Indian policy there. Okay, is that speech was from 2021 in February. And I'll give you some examples as to what has happened since. The space program, we've already talked about it, the space program. So what has happened that? Medical advances. And I know major medical hospitals were developed in India and world class. And all of us run there to get medication, everything for difficult situation. Say the Tata business started in India, and then all these other politicians are looking for defenders, and defenders, oh, that is actually owned by Tata at the moment in the UK. So all the Land Rover's defending company is owned by Tata. And I believe that the YouTube and all the other things in corporate handling in US is now owned by Indian groups. So you can see this, how this policy of government not getting putting their fingers into business is working. But our people are completely opposite. Government is in big business. And we just heard last week how a particular minister is trying to import discarded egg from India to Sri Lanka as eggs for importation, buying for 27 cents or something and selling for 4 rupees or something. So you can see that's the thing we need to stop. So the duties of parliamentarians is something completely different. Check and challenge the work of the government, that's scrutiny. Make and change the laws, that's legislation. Debate the important issues of the day, that's debating. And check and approve government spending, budget and taxes. So policy making is near business. It is not business taking commissions, deals, or sales of public assets. That's not their business. So this is what has happened to us. So why is this proposal? We wanted to initiate a way of thinking amongst our young voters in particular and save the little standard the current generation has managed, not to destroy by ignorant voting. And actually we have done that. I mean, we are guilty of this because in our time, we were focusing only our jobs and try to do your job properly. And we never thought that we should be more interested in the politics and make sure the politics going on the right way. We didn't do that. And that's why this situation in the country. Stop propagating violence to promote division at regional level and nationally. That will happen when we have a system like that, because violence and division will only demote the culprits. And increase the national representation of women and youngsters in the parliament. Now, here you will get an opening for a woman or a young man or a woman to become popular and get a reasonable number of votes and go completely independent into the parliament. So this is an opening for them. So, but the ballot paper will also have to change, because you will go by the candidate name and the party symbol will follow the name, not the other way around, so that people know by name who should be voted and not really the party. And the independent people will go as independent. So the ballot paper changes, that's why. So if fundamental changes need to make it a truly a people vote, the district branch of a particular party should select the candidates and not nominate by the party leader. There need to be a candidate filtering. Now, Bernard is expert on that. I don't want to go more into it, but if we are revising this document, we will have to put comments into it. Age 21 above, yes, true. Minimum reading skill is required. There's no point going to the parliament if you don't have reading skill. So at least one language should have a pass in O level. Then minimum writing skills in mathematics required as well. I mean, how can you do a budget and things if you don't know mathematics? So at least mathematics OL pass is required if a candidate, but there'll be other things like no criminal records, things like that. So the character certificate is important, no criminal records for someone to become a candidate. If ever you get a false declaration proven by any of these candidates, they should immediately lose the seat. That has to be a condition. Then people will be more worried about forwarding a false declaration or making no declarations at all. And by-elections. So if somebody loses a seat, have a by-election and use the same meritocracy in the district so that you get the best person to follow suit. So that's easy by-election, no problem at all. How can we make this a reality? We have to develop a perfect blueprint, and I will need help from you all for comments, how to improve things. Just write to me so that we can develop a blueprint on that and take it to the nation via all methods of publication so that the people are aware that there can be better methods of election design, and so that they will learn about it. We can do a requested referendum with a large number of signatures, if possible, through the parliament, saying implement this election method, and then get a referendum conducted. So that's one way of doing that, but you may have other ways of thinking about implementing this. So our MP numbers adequate? That's another question people will ask. So Sri Lanka has 22 million population, 225 MPs, 10 MPs for 1 million population. Look at the UK, for example, 64 million population, 650 MPs, again, roughly 10 MPs for 1 million population. So Netherlands, 18 million population, 150 MPs, about 8 MPs for 1 million population. So we are roughly okay. We don't have to worry about the number that is there in the parliament. But we need to reduce the ministerial portfolios. That's another subject to talk about, and the filtering of ministers, but that's a different subject. So we don't want to go into that. I'm not an expert of any of these. We need your help to find out there. So thank you so much. I'll stop there and listen to your arguments and discussions and criticisms. Thank you so much. Anybody? I'll obviously have to get advice from Janaka and Bernard, who are not here today. But yes, Deepal, yeah. Is that Deepal you raised? Yeah. Is that Cheryl? Yeah, Cheryl, yes, Cheryl. Yeah, Cheryl, yeah. You have to unmute, I think. You're muted still. Still muted, Cheryl.
Can you hear me now?
Now good, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to know, for a lay person who has no idea of politics, how would they listen to, what you have just, preached, and what would be the grassroots levels that somebody can help in promoting this uncorrupted, and knowledgeable voting system for democracy?
Yeah, so we want to develop a small document at least, and maybe a video or something that will explain the system very simple terms. But I think it's best done if I can get some young people to do it, because then our focus is to teach the young people basically, so that it's their country that's going to come. And it's good that they understand what is best for them now, so that they can get it implemented at some point and then take it forward. So maybe start with the document, and if you can convert it to all 3 languages, that's better. So they will understand with some pictures and so on. So I'll try to do that and submit a draft proposal at some point, but anybody is welcome to write it up if they can. Yeah, anybody else?
Hi, Chula. This is Jivananda. I
Yes.
have a question about, selecting the candidates at the local level.
Yeah.
Now, for example, in the US, the candidates are selected by a primary vote.
Yeah.
Now, according to what you proposed, still the party leader can influence the local committee's decision-making process, right?
To some extent, maybe, but in Sri Lanka is very heavy, the party leader. But the US is not a 100% a fully democratic country as such. The Nordic countries are better, say Netherlands and so on. They are much better in their democracies. So there are various democratic models. I mean, if you take it from one side to be completely democratic, the other side is completely autocratic. And then there are mixtures in between everywhere. So what we are proposing here is something that is suitable for Sri Lanka. But I think the proposal, if you write it up properly, actually I've told Janaka and Bernard, make it a publishable kind of document, so that we can publish it maybe in US, maybe in UK, where the democracy is still being tested, because the UK has got a first pass system. The US has got a very old system of regional representation. And that is why, for example, your president, when three terms ago, the elected person got lesser numbers than the opposition leader. Actually.
Yeah. I agree. I see the faults of the US system.
So,
No, I'm
so
talking
there are
about
problems.
I'm not talking about that part, Shula.
Yeah.
This is specifically about selecting the candidates by the local party.
Yeah,
Now,
because now, for example, if the election system is regional meritocracy, then they will have to do that, because otherwise they won't win. You can't put unpopular candidates and hope that they will win in a region when there'll be independent people even thinking, okay, I can get more votes than these people, and so on. So it will give kind of a balance for people to think. But if by legislation that it comes to say the regional branch of a particular party should nominate their candidates, that's wonderful. That's 100% good. It becomes proper democratic. But how far we can get, I don't know, but a referendum might help it.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is, what if we have a primary vote to select the candidates for each district from their party?
Yeah, they can do
Sure.
that.
I mean, it's a more expensive, more elaborate path, but
yeah, but then you have another election that is required to do a primary vote to find their proposed person.
Correct.
That's number one. Then again, you get this top-down party system. What we want to do is to make it a bottom-up party system. So if you do that, then we will have again the same intimidation and everything else on this local selection of parties. It's not going to be as fair as it will be in, say, US. There's a lot of intimidation back down here. I mean, say I explained a few things. There may be other things as well, which I don't know, but there'll be other many ways of intimidating candidates. And then, so for example, Manape and so on, when people got elected, sometimes the election results did not come for about 4 days or 5 days in particular districts. And then it happened that people who failed got elected. So they must have paid the other person or whatever, I don't know. whatever the corruption is going on, and
Yeah.
then certain other members who did not get the votes get elected. So this way, within a day, you should know who is electing. There's no need to wait for 4 days.
Yeah.
Because the meritocracy is very simple and so on. Yes, Lakshman. Yeah, anything else, Jivanand?
No, thank you very much. I mean, no, nothing is perfect. Even here in the US,
Yeah.
especially, the during the primaries or even the general election, the suppression of the African American vote is a well-known fact.
Yeah,
It's-
that happened through media or social media platform. They use false videos and everything else. And in 2015 election, as far as you know, there's something called Cambridge Analytica, who was paid a large amount of money to do that manipulation in Sri Lanka. As I know, but that company got caught and they are dissolved now. So there are lots of these kind of manipulative methods people will use, and more powerful, the ones who have more corrupt money is more likely to do that. Whereas
Yes.
the normal original, say 24-year-old, okay, who's got good thinking, good man, who wants to be a politician. I mean, how can he come up? He cannot come up at all. Impossible. Because
Yeah.
he doesn't have the money to start with. That second, you will get intimidated if not by threat and everything else. That's why.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you, Chula. Referring to what Jivananda just mentioned, I remember as a kid, I was doing my O-level in mid 60s, where we had, it's selected by the party, but they were from our village or from our community.
Yeah.
So this is what we call the bottom-up approach, and we know them very closely.
Yes.
That's for these Gam Sabha, Nagar Sabha, and all that. But again, even for the national elections, I remember those MPs were, they were mixing with people, local people, even for the parliamentary candidates. So
Yeah.
this kind of approach, I think, then we know who the candidates we are selecting.
Yeah. Very good. I mean, you can't imagine. I was in Gold as a student in Richmond, and Mr. Dahanayaka's house was close by, and his telephone was free sometimes, but you had to go and wait and book one. So I had to take a telephone call once, and I went to his home. There was nobody in the front door. You can just enter, and booked a telephone call. And then I was sitting there waiting for the trunk call to come up, and then who walked out? Dahanayaka himself. He said, "What are you doing, Pudha, here?" and all that. So I said, I wanted a telephone call. I was actually starting my training in the UK at the time. And then I talked a little bit about politics. And he said, "Look, don't talk about, we look after this side. You look after yourself. Get yourself trained properly." And that's what he advised straight away. This is so simple to talk to a prime minister at those days. Yes, Ranjan.
Thank you, Chula. Point one, reference was made, I think it was Jivananda, who made reference to the primary election system that prevails in the United States. The great advantage of that system is that it allows the people who with a particular party, Democratic or social or Republican, to select the candidate, which I think is more democratic than a party leader selecting the candidate.
Very true.
See, which is what prevails in Sri Lanka. The party leader finally selects the list of candidates, and what ultimately it boils down to is he selecting candidates who are personally loyal to him.
Yeah, true.
So I think the primary system is a better method of ensuring democracy, of ensuring selecting people, selecting candidates that the people like. The choice is left to the people. of any particular party. In America, there are only two parties, Republican and Democratic. So I think that's a much better method. But of course, as you say, the disadvantage is that it involves some expenditure in having to hold a primary round of elections before the final round. So that is for a country, cash-strapped country like Sri Lanka, that might be a bit of a disadvantage. But we may be able to find some way out of, find a solution to that problem too.
Yeah, one question I think Jivananda I have is, in the US, when you do this primary election, is it open for everybody or is it open for registered voters for that particular party?
So that's a good question, Chula. You have to be a party. You have to register in the party to vote for that candidate.
Yeah,
So the independent.
that will be
So
fine. So yeah, that will be fine to do that, isn't it?
yeah.
Sri
And then
Lanka.
that doesn't mean that you cannot vote at the general election whatever the way you want.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I mean, if we can, that means basically the branch of a particular party have to conduct this election of their nomination.
Yeah. Now this was the good example is the last 2022 elections. The Trump, he influenced. I mean, he has enormous influence over the party, but a majority of the candidates who supported lost the election. So that's a good. That shows that it has a merit.
No, yeah, I think it's a good one to implement if we can do a primary vote through a particular party in the system in a particular branch, because then they have to have their registered members for that particular party, which will be much lower than the number there is anyway. Yeah, that is true. Deepan, yeah.
Thank you, Jula. I'm just wondering whether I understood exactly what you were telling, the differences. So the difference is basically cancelling this national list and this bonus seats, and also going back to the electoral system, right? Is that what you propose? I mean, what is the difference?
I mean, I think you need to understand the various intimidation tactics that been used so far. So So 75 years we have failed in our election system because none of the governments have lifted us up as a nation. We've all gone down. And that is because one of the main thing is, one is all these favorites being brought in. Basically, Alibaba, if the Alibaba is coming, Horu Hataliyev is brought in to there through this nomination system. So the problem with that is it's never represented people's interests, and we have not got anywhere. And then it's been quite divisive. So that's why you got Sinhala Bala Mandalaya, and we had whatever Dharma, various religious parties, various racial parties, all very divisive, trying to take a pound of flesh from this. So if you use regional meritocracy, that means in a particular region, you have 10 candidates, somebody got 100, somebody got 89, somebody got 50 or something. You put in descending order, and you know the number of MPs that have been allocated for that region through the division that I told you, and you just elect them, regional meritocracy. So overnight, you exactly know who's been selected. So meritocracy is important to give equality to the vote. So if you say that when you divide the total number of votes from 2020 election by the number of MPs, that's 196, then you get 60,000 votes. Now, how many of our current parliamentarians have 60,000 votes in their bank when they got elected? Good question. So that is why voting has not got equal level at the moment. I hope you understand.
Yes, but it's natural because if, for example, a very popular candidate receives a huge number of votes, the others will not. I mean, say there are 100 votes, and one gets 50 votes, and all the rest, like say there are another 10 candidates, the 9 candidates, so they can't receive the, okay, so example, if there are 100 voters and 10 candidates, each should receive 10 votes if they are equally divided. But of course, if somebody is very popular and if he receives like 60 votes, all the 55 votes, all the rest 45 votes will be divided among the 9 people. So definitely they will not get the average vote of 10.
No, I see your point. But when you put a
Yeah.
meritocracy system into it, then you will get actually according to the order who is next popular in the system. So that it's not going to upset the meritocracy. So that means everyone's vote is valued in electing your MP. I think you understood that. Maybe I have to put it into writing and then send it to all.
Yeah. I also like to know that, like, I mean, rather than trying to, completely build up a whole new system now, democracy has been practiced by many countries. For example, UK and even India, the biggest democratic country. So, what are the best? I mean, what is the best system they have been using? And I think, in my opinion, it is not the system which is weak. It is the education. People don't have much education, and they allow these corruptions to creep in, and that's what is happening, and that's why the country is in this state. Well, that's my opinion. Rather than trying to change, I'm not telling this is perfect, but more than changing the system, I think it's more than a matter of educating people. Thank you.
Yeah. What you say is correct. I mean, people education matters, and that's now when you propose something like this, showing the weaknesses of the current system, that's education for people, and then we will know what is weak and how can we get rid of it, not by just their visual thinking, but also by regulation. So that's what we were trying to do. And you said the best system. What is the best system? We will share 3 pillars, right? Independent judiciary, independent president, and the legislation. So that's the parliament. Now, our system is not independent. We are a very small country, 22 million people. And although that applies to US with 390 million or other country which has got larger population, say even UK is still first past system and still got problems with the democracy, lots of arguments, etc. So what, being a small country, even we can still think of a new way of trying to get rid of the problems we have inherent in the system. So that is what we should do. But our problem of trying to put the 3 best systems like a president and a parliament and a judiciary has not worked, because the legislation has polarized the president even above the judiciary. That's what's happened. So basically, judiciary can't independently think as such at the moment, and that's what's sad. So that's why we got into such a big problem. Where is there any law and order? I mean, all the politicians are above the law, basically. So Bala, yes, Bala. Bala?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I think there are 2 things which I need to really talk about. It is generally when we present a new system,
Yeah,
there is a concern expressed always. The minorities wanted an adequate representation for their population ratio and blah blah things.
Yeah.
And the nationalists among the majority want to reduce the minority coming in. That's why they are still again they have started a dialogue of raising the cutoff point for 12.5 instead of 5% and so on. So this current dialogue is going on. That's one. And that need to be also taken into consideration when we really try to really propagate this.
Yeah.
And more importantly, what we need is the whole issue of accountable representation. The representative should be accountable to the voter. And generally, there is the sort of a distrust about the parliamentarian and things like among the population, and therefore there is a good advantage to present a new system and propagate it to mobilize the support of the public. I think in terms of this strategy of communication, we need to really target two levels. One is we cannot avoid parliamentary because that ultimately the decision has to come through the parliament, and therefore we need to really either produce a good policy briefing or something to be circulated, and even if possible, we can think of starting a kind of a dialogue inside the parliament, get hold of one of the progressive MP to present it as a single person motion, and then try to really fix for a deep dialogue. But before that, I think it's need to be adequately propagated among the communities. Try to get the community leaders or prominent people who can take this message. And so therefore, what I suggest is to prepare a sort of a communication strategy, how we are going to place it and take it forward. It's very important. Thank you.
Thanks, Bala. Thank you very much. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the minority thing that you're talking about. Actually speaking, minority is not an issue, but it's a thing that is used by people for certain reasons. Say, but without saying minority, why don't you use the word equality and say we want equality instead of saying minority? But the minority leaders don't want to talk about equality because there are certain people using the disadvantage of a particular group for their own gain. That's the problem with this. I'll give you examples. Now, the UK Prime Minister is an Indian. Okay. Is that a minority issue? Indians are minority in the UK. Fine. Okay. Now, Scotland First Minister is a Muslim. Is that the majority in Scotland? No. It's the minority in the Scotland. And Barack Obama was a black who became the president in the US. Is that the majority in the US? No. So minority is not an arguable thing as long as we have a system that is justified, works on principles. So the color doesn't matter if we are working on principles and education, as you say. So this is what it is. So it's a balance. That's what I'm saying. Ranjan, yes, Ranjan.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you because this is not my view. You know, this is a dominant view from the minority parties. All three parties are having that. For your information, I have never casted a single vote of preference to a Tamil candidate in my electorate up till now, because not for any reason. They are not effective. They are corrupt. You know, the previous MP for Kandy and the present MP of the Tamil guy is a close relative of mine. But they knew very well that I don't vote for them. That's my personal choice because I don't vote for a person knowing they're corrupt, they're ineffective, and so on. Now, what I'm trying to say is, here the problem is this is one of the issues that they will try to really sabotage any initiatives. That's what I'm raising issue.
Very, very true. But I think
that's not my issue, and I hold the view all three minority parties have never done anything to strengthen the rights of the minorities in this country. Rather, they use it for their own survival.
So
that's my position.
That's one of the problems we have. But then you can see, I mean, even in the South, I mean, a good Tamil or a Muslim may get elected. I mean, it has happened. It is happening. So it doesn't mean if you say equality is our target for everyone, we are Sri Lankans, whether it's the color or whatever. Even among Sinhalese, how many divisions are there? Up country, South country, Christian, Buddhist, various castes, everything else. The Tamils have the similar caste-based various divisions. So divisive politics is not helping anybody at all as a country, and we are only 22 million population. We don't need this huge system to sort out the problem. We need discuss and everything. That is why I said, teach the younger people, and I think we will get there with time because they will understand where the problem is. Yes, Ranjan, you got a comment.
Chula, now you referred to the three pillars of government and the need for them to be independent. At the very beginning, that is 1948, the three pillars were there and they were independent to a large extent. And you know, they were well defined, much better, I think, than today. in the first constitution of Sir Ivor Jennings. See, that independence was there. So down the road, that independence got eroded, you see. And today we have come to such a stage that independence is virtually non-existent. That separation of, when I was in school, when I was taught civics, we were talking about the separation of powers. That is the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. So it was very much there. It is not now. In practice, when we practiced this system little by little, gradually, the independence was compromised, and the people allowed it. Now, what went wrong? I think that is what we have to address if we want to get back to the ideal state, restore the ideal state once again. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Ranjan. I mean, we've had basically allowed the constitution to get rid of all the checks and balances. Say, for example, you elect someone today with 1,000 votes, okay? Now, if that 1,000 wants to get rid of him tomorrow with the 1,001 votes, you cannot do it. So basically, you are permanently elected to the parliament for 5 years as soon as the thing is gone. There's no way of getting anybody out of the system, even if they're sorry unpopular. And that's one thing that is there. And then I was trying to answer another one for you. I've forgotten now. So yes, we need to educate the youngsters to do things and then take it from there. And I've actually not learned very much myself. It's Bernard who taught me a lot, and Janaka. Now, Bernard is actually here and raising the hand. I'm very happy you are here, Bernard.
Yeah, sorry that though I had to mute it because my grandson was disturbing me and I was a little distracted. So I was just listening here and there. Now, just to mention a few things about the candidates. Now, you mentioned about the local branches selecting the candidates and all that. Of course, the practicality of that needs to be tested. As far as preference voting system is concerned, it has been tested to very great heights. And we are all after 75 years of this kind of system happening, and we are back in square one. So that is why I thought of it in a very strong way, because we have to take the bull by the horns and get the authorities to impose fears to the extent. I mean, this is not dictatorship, but this, as far as it is practiced in the private sector as well as government sector, where you have a system of calling for applications. And because we are talking of a district now, so calling for applications, then when you call for applications, there must be job specifications, eligibility criteria must be there. Then you have to have the interviews. This is happening even for security guards and laborers area in the private sector everywhere. So we must have a very robust system of having people apply. Then independently anybody can do it. When you have a local branch, as somebody mentioned earlier also, they are politicized. They are politicized basically. So they by hook or by crook, they get attached to the strings of the leaders. So here it is very independent, but only thing is, this is a little difficult. That's what I said. The present day politicians will not like this happening. But the people will have to see that they must. This is what actually the Aragale ended up with that. No, they said this is the 225. All there were educated people, doctors, professors in that 225, but they said this is the 225 because all are corrupt.
All are politicized, correct?
Yes. That is that. So in that context only, I thought let us get into the way of doing things in a corporate manner. So actually, even in the present constitution, there are a lot of negative criteria. That means you must have that are involved in crime, or so the jail sentence, or involved in bribery and corruption, and involved in illicit trades. That kind of things are already there in the constitution. But see what is happening. The leaders, I mean, we see the people who are being nominated by the present system. Present system is very ad hoc. It is also, present system also involves calling for applications and interviews. It is there, but it is very ad hoc. It's not done in a very standardized manner. That is why the Fiat must come in, and the NEC, National Election Commission, will have to impose criteria, eligibility criteria, and even the structured interview system also must be there, and that to be applicable across the board for all parties. Then the people will look at a very transparent system. It must be made known to the educated youngsters. Will know. I see here the eligibility criteria are there, and these job specifications are there. Job descriptions. What is the job description of a parliamentarian? In the parliament, there are three things. Legal, they are called legislators, they are called lawmakers. That means you need lawyers or attorneys in the parliament to function, because this 225 is for the entire country. Then secondly, you need accountants, because they are looking at the budget. They are looking at the budget, and they need to know the accounts. And thirdly, of course, you need some people like other professions, economists. Now, economists are very much needed to run the country. Economy is in the hands of the parliament. So all these three should be taken into account. And at the time of interview, they should give marks. I think I have prepared a format and sent to you also, Professor Jula. And that gives, how the marking system, everything is there. So we have to address this whole thing in a corporate manner, because we have failed for 75 years now. We can't again go back to the local systems, and then I say these are the people who have selected. These people have to be educated, and when you give the system to them, then they will understand. I say, look here, they are not going to do selection. There should be interview panels, and the leaders should not be touching the interview panel. The interview panel must be independent. Each district, everywhere, same thing must be followed. All parties must be. I have a level playing field. Even in terms of expenditure, now say there's no level playing field, though they have passed law, it has not come into practice yet. So that is as far as the eligibility criteria and the interviews are concerned. Then the people will be assured. They will have at least some confidence. I say, look here, we are not, this time we are going to get horses, but not donkeys, because they have a criteria, method, and all that, and people are forewarned by this under the proposed system that I'm saying. They have to prepare a preliminary merit list. Preliminary merit list. That is, in any structured interview system, you get an automatic merit list. Person who is scoring top score will be at the top, and like that, it will be in the descending order. And people will see that list, preliminary list, and they can always, it should be published by Election Commission. And election commission should get any objections from the people in the area, in the districts, and they will send the objections back to the parties, and the parties will have to do the corrections, and then only the final list has to be prepared. Then the people will be ensured that we have gone through this list, and we know the people who should be out and who should be in, and the next list, and they can at least depend on the party list that is coming. So there are several advantages when you don't have to vote for individuals, and then you have to count their individual votes, preference, like the preference vote manner, you have to counting is there, and there will separate votes for the, and there can be rejected votes also in the process. So here you vote only to the party, because these are all corporate level working. So
Bernard, I think regional meritocracy means nobody can be elected without coming through a filtering system. What you are talking about is a filtering system, minimal eligibility criteria for anybody to become a candidate. I think that should be nice.
Yeah.
So the eligibility criteria for minimum eligibility criteria for any candidate from whatever the party has to be nationally applied. And that is what we need to talk about. And I think there are 10 items or something the Singaporean Canadian candidate to show. And you listed some as well. I think we should discuss that and put that as a separate subject. So that eligibility criteria for political candidates. So I think you have got a lot of ideas about it. So I think we should do that in a practical sense as well. So we can present it here and produce another kind of a proposal in relation
maybe on another day, right? Not today, right?
For the filtering of candidates. That's the topic.
Yeah.
Because it's a
So-
big topic and we need to have a consensus on that.
So, because in short, the normal, now we are a small country of 22 million people and 60 million voters.
Yeah.
And we can always adapt the best method because as a model, because we are like a pilot project for the entire world.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I want to do, because I think we are going on a good path to write a good proposal, I think, with all these sections. And I actually want to publish it, if possible, maybe in a US or UK first, so that
Good.
it will have some weight for us
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Because I have always been telling two fundamentals. Primary objective of an election should be the accuracy of the allocation of the number of seats. And you mentioned that that is fine, because we have to have at a national level election. It is the national vote of the party percent and the party percentage that matters to determine the number of seats for that party for the one parliament.
Yeah, that's right. So if you do a meritocracy system, even the independent votes, say you have independent candidates, they might become the largest party. Suddenly.
Now the last one that I sent to you, analysis of the 2020 general election revised one, there are 4 independent parties groups becoming eligible to get seats, at least one seat. But we must not promote several independent parties, because that kind of mushrooming party is also not good for an election. So only thing is they also must realize their ability to do post something in the parliament is very low.
Yeah, but there has to be the opportunity. We should not block.
Exactly, yeah. But only thing is the danger of getting decoy candidates and for trading purposes. That some people form a party and sell it to another party. It has happened recently.
Yeah, but then decoying gets useless if you are using regional meritocracy.
Yeah. And this
because that will be killing yourself if you put decoy. Yeah.
So only thing is, when we make things very transparent for the people, that's what I am still thinking of what the Aragalai said. We don't want this kind of chain horrors and corrupt people in the parliament. We need educated people in the parliament. So we actually, other countries, it happens automatically. In Sri Lanka, it can't happen automatically. You have to impose conditions. But after our 2 elections, things will fall into place and water will find its own level, and every time you will get professionals contesting. So we have to make a start in this area, because if we go back to the primary stage, we will be again locked down with the same. We have to make it's a system change. You have to make this system change.
I mean, even from us, say we are very senior, it takes a long time for us to understand the weaknesses in the current system. So that's why I thought, look, put it into record. So all our concerns and suggestions and everything.
Right.
Not people will understand the value of those things that easily, because Bernard, you've studied all the numbers for years and years and years since 1997, isn't it?
Yes.
So you got a history of understanding or learning about this, whereas we don't have it. So that is why we can all get together and write something up. And then if you can make a short video, a short document for youngsters to distribute, which we can do. At the moment, some youngsters are involved with us and they are working, and then hopefully this December event will promote more people to follow what we are saying. So we are not working like a party. We are working like more kind of a patriotic group who wants to get Sri Lanka better for everyone. So that's the whole idea.
Yeah, because if I may add another small thing, because now when we find these professionals coming into the parliament in large numbers, that there will be lesser room for corruption and various other things happening, because they will act professional. But here, when you have a mix of at least 75% professionals, even 25% others, still it can be a problem. So we must have at least 90% professionals into the parliament, and they must be lawmakers, accountants, and economists, and perhaps bankers with international knowledge, international trade knowledge. So that is where I think, in my view, unless you get this parliament candidates, a robust group of parliament candidates manning the parliament, we will be back in square one.
Yeah, very good. Okay, thanks, Bernard. You have more work to do. We'll prepare a filtering mechanism. And I welcome anybody to write to us and then get involved with this process, because I think that's the foundation that we need. Whatever the other things we do is going to go waste, just like what has happened for the last 75 years, because there'll be more oligarchs coming up with the politicians, with the currency. So that's the issue. So thanks for listening today. I think there are no other comments today. So I'll stop there. And next, we are still in the process of developing this. And next Sunday, we are talking about this virtual platform. And I think I need a lot of input for that and ideas and everything else. And even people who are going to get involved as a board of director or something to run that separately. So that's what is there. It's not a memory recall tuition class that we are looking for. We are looking for beyond. I think given the facilities you have, and you may be able to even develop the whole curriculum using the whole database knowledge that is there in the world using the artificial intelligence connection. So there are people who can do it here, and then our virtual platform will be really educational platform, not just the subject matter but beyond. So that's what we want to do. Yeah, we're getting there. Very good. We are an educational charity. That is what our purpose, but we can go beyond. Thank you very much for everybody's time today, and we'll catch up next week again, and I'll keep you updated.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.